Mm.
Are you all ready to join me today in our trip to outer space?
Come along quietly or not.
I will talk to you of art.
Albert Shivers.
For there is nothing else. Some artist made a hook.
Yes.
Let you bite upon it.
Take this. What time is it?
Classy. And now, without further ado, coming from Albert Shivers.
You are listening to the first station on your dial, WCNW, operating on a frequency of 1,500 kilocycles in Brooklyn, New York.
Nice catch. That was perfect, man. I don't know how you did that, how you caught that. The slip was nice. No, I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, I was like, seriously, I was like picking out like a fly out of the air or something.
Yeah.
With your left, or with your right arm?
That's my non-dominant arm. Yeah.
Nice.
Your non-dominant arm.
Welcome to another episode of the Planet Shivers podcast. I'm Albert Shivers, and I'm here with Isaac, and very excited to have back Mr. Mike Lynn. How's it going?
That's going well, thank you.
One thing that you wanted to get into
Yeah.
had a little bit to do with how you're perceiving your age right now.
Right.
So if you want to, you can go into that.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, it's an interesting thing because I've been conscious, as most of us are, all my life, in my case, that I was a little bit different than the average kid. That's saying it very mildly. I mean, at first, it was like, try to, I was going to say seduce, but that ain't seduce. It was, medicate me so that I was just like falling asleep half the time.
To calm you down.
Yeah, to calm me down. And that doesn't work real well. And then they have medication and all sorts of programs and ups and downs just to keep me, like routines such as when I got home, even from school, which was a mile walk, my mother would make me run around the house 10 times, before I came in. And by that time I had worn it down enough that I wouldn't just come in the house and banging my head and say,
exactly. That's what they should do.
Yeah. And really for me, and I think we may have touched on this last time, but I don't know how many people are going to be listening to both.
Right.
Hopefully hundreds.
But
the whole series.
Yeah.
As the years go by.
Right.
That would be cool. But that was my introduction to drumming. Because when I first entered school, I was just and not necessarily the sound, but for the sake of the sound, I wasn't drumming. But it was, doing this or doing this or doing it with my feet, and I couldn't. I mean, I tried. I could not sit in a place for more than half an hour. Be it a theater, a lecture, services, religious. You couldn't freeze me, I could say. I just couldn't stay. I had to move, very kinetic.
Yeah.
And then I was just trouble, until I saw a guidance counselor, and this guy was like just a genius. Because for me, it was wow. He said, "Let's use this guy's energy, as frenetic as it is. Give him a pair of drumsticks and put him in the elementary school band." That was very, very significant. But anyway, I think that the short-term relief from just finding yourself in this torrent of activity all the time, that was afforded by, let's say, playing drums, etc., or exercise. In a long-term fashion is what is accomplished by getting older. So I'm 69 years old. 69 years old, to me, is like grandparents old, and I'm a grandparent.
Right.
But my grandparents, and I realize medicine has come a long way, but my grandparents, particularly on my father's side, they were really old people. I remember them about 60, 65. My grandfather was doing the shuffle,
Right.
They just, and I don't know what's happening in terms of life expectancy, because they said the United States this past year, the average when your life expectancy would be lower. Because it's been, gains. At age 69, you're sort of on the precipice of okay, then 11 years from now it'd be 80. How many 80-year-olds do I know, or have I experienced through relatives and stuff, that are not somehow hampered by Alzheimer's, or some physical disability that ongoing. You know what the end of the program is going to be, and they're caught in it. And I'm very fortunate that I'm not, and I like to think that maybe somehow that extra energy that sort of your body just generates itself. Now at age 69, I'm probably the equivalent of a normal 20-year-old or something. You know what I mean? Or a 40-year-old, maybe 40-year-old. I don't know that I'd ever get to 40. But 69 is an interesting age.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as numbers go.
It's got some cosmic significance.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that 69 then was very different than
I think that's very
now.
true. I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have friends.
Agree. Yeah.
It's only in the last few decades that it's come out just how like the amount of horrible shit isn't food products,
Oh yeah,
quote,
that's
unquote.
true.
And just to think with the lack of regulations way back when.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about it. Yeah, exactly.
So many metals.
When they didn't have to put down what the ingredients were at all.
Yeah.
And the basic fundamental essence of capitalism is we got to make money, as much money as we can. It's a corporation. It's considered separate. It's a money maker. They could care less about the health. Yeah. And their own kids are probably eating these products. But I look, even today, it's really hard to read around those labels, or in terms of what's packaged. It'll be natural, but it'll be flavor. It's a natural flavor.
Natural flavor.
It's not the actual flavor.
Yeah, now they weave words beautifully.
And there are specific legal ways you can frame your language, such that it would be considered 100% beef, right? So you're thinking beef.
There's only beef.
it's only beef, but no, but beef includes their tongue, their eyes. It's still a cow, and there's actually percentages. If it's 100% beef, it only has to be 92% or something. And it's the same thing with pharmaceuticals. Like the generics are the same as the original brand. The generic, by law, this I know, has to be 75% identical to the thing that you think.
Wow.
And they tell you it's the same thing. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
To the original formula, 75%. That means 25% is completely here. Right. So you're expecting the same result from something that it can be, and probably will be, 25% different. Now.
You can squeeze a lot into that 25%.
Oh yeah, a lot of fillers.
Yeah. Well, again, the language.
Oh yeah.
They'll skirt anything they can.
First of all,
just
the language is designed like beef or pork. You don't say pig or cow because immediately it raises the issue of the reality of the situation, which is horrendous. You see these animals are treated. And, I mean, there's one video I saw where they literally had cows jumping into this massive.
Oh yeah, the cheese grater.
Yeah,
the industrial size cheese
grater. You see this animal, one after the other, being marched into this grater. Now with a little bit of Valium or something.
Right.
You see, he's down about here. And the grater completely chewed up and non-existing. I mean, that's not the way we want to be. That 5 times 2, millions
billion
out in the air isn't a good thing. I don't think.
That's how we roll.
No, and it's like I was sitting in a McDonald's years ago.
Yeah.
And you just start to do the math.
Yeah.
About first how many burgers a McDonald's goes through in one McDonald's.
Oh right, it's by seconds. Right.
Yeah.
That's how they make good money.
Yeah.
But how do you make money selling hamburgers for 99 cents?
Right.
It's if you make 2 cents, then you make it when that happens. I'm saying, but you're right. It's like
right, and you combine
in one place.
Right, and then you think all the fast food joints and all around.
Unbelievable.
That's a lot of cows and a lot of other stuff that they're sliding in there.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You take the percentage of just the net burgers consumed. 25% of that. Like how many burgers could you just make out of plastic and hydrogenated shit?
Yeah, but I mean, the weird thing is that even if they're making out of the best, let's say the best example normally would be if they claim that it's whatever it is, as opposed to something that's cheaper. One would think that the thing would be healthier as it is, but beef isn't particularly, it would be argued that's not a real healthy thing if it's real fatty, for instance.
Well, I'm sure like the all natural, you know, if you like yourself slaughtered the cow
Oh yeah,
and like
you get grass fed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That might be better.
That's not how big industry work. You know, it's not how you feed. I remember it was like 10 years ago. Even it was like over 99 billion served. Like I'm wondering now how many fucking burgers.
It's sick. I mean, I don't know any way around it. Because if you think about it, if you stopped it, let's say you're to a position, this is cruel, and everybody agreed with you, and we don't need to be doing this. Plus, the methane and stuff that's releasing from these animals that are kept is responsible for something like a third of the air pollution, etc., the greenhouse gases and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of good reasons not to do that. Besides, principle ones for me, anyways, just ethics when it comes to animals that are sentient. You talk about a clam or something. I'm not particularly sympathetic.
Right.
These cows, they have little calves. They separate. The mama is crying for days.
Yeah.
The little baby
I
goes.
see videos of that. Yeah, like
Yeah,
the
you see
cows
it.
crying while they're going into the chute. Like, wow, this is fucking.
They're all crying.
Yeah.
And these calves are like going insane. And then they have the thing that the milk fed calf that they make for veal or where they literally. That he lives his whole life, or she, whatever, in a cage, so they don't get any muscles. So they're really tender with this milk-fed stuff.
We gotta promote Kobe beef farms. We gotta import them here to America. You know, massage the cows their entire life and feed them beer and shit. That'd be a lot more humane, I think.
Yeah, but I mean that's just if you're a sentient being, and amongst the reasons you can tell they are is that they understand who their mommy is.
Yeah.
And they understand that they exist.
They're smart. I mean.
Oh yeah, look how we treat dogs.
Yeah,
and they say pigs will learn more. You ever see that on TV or something where a pig does 300 something tricks?
Wow.
You shouldn't be eating something that does 300 something tricks, unless you eat the dog too, for breakfast. Besides eggs.
Right.
I just don't get it. And everybody thinks about pig. That argument doesn't even.
If you're like face to face with this animal, though, you could tell it's like kind of got your number, its head at least is bigger than yours, and it's just like this giant being just like staring you down.
Right.
Like,
but we're so as the superior, or as the highest ranked, let's say the A,
the cleverest.
Of the whole chain.
Yeah.
One would think there'd be some compassion and that would come in, but it's not. It's more what you're used to. People are going to change, and the other thing is, I can make money on it. Just think about everything. And I'm putting out farming and everything, but it doesn't cost the farmer once you've got the original animals, and those animals are what they are. Now the animal has 8 little horsies or something, and now I'm making money on that. I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I feed the guys, they do something, but
you give them
I'm not having labor,
You give them, general upkeep.
I think I have rights to sell my own kids, maybe. But.
I mean, why limit it to animals?
Yeah, right.
We got to overflow prisoners or something.
Oh, God. That's a whole other thing.
So, food definitely wasn't the same.
Oh, no. That's very true.
And that probably does have something to do with the way people aged.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Even they say that, the size differences between an American and, let's say, people of, not backward, but a country that's not eating as wholesomely, so to speak, or as much protein.
Right.
It may be responsible for that. I don't know. Oriental people tend to be slightly, if you took the average height-wise. Except for some of them.
Alkaline breakfast instead of just like just juices and like meat and shit and eggs and all these
it's got. I guess what's happened is we've gone too far over the edge. As a country that had the advantage.
We're just of a higher caloric persuasion, I guess. We just need more. More.
Well, yeah. I don't know, but So I have the luxury. First of all, if you live to be 69, I'm at least feeling like. So if let's say something terrible happened, or at least as far as I'm concerned, and I die tomorrow, I don't feel. I feel like okay, I got kids, I got grandchildren. I have children. I've kind of done my biological reproduction thing. If you want to get real, mushy about it, you say they live on as in a sense.
You've achieved immortality.
Yeah,
through
right,
the DNA.
right.
Yeah.
This is all the thing. Emotions. I may as well go to sleep. You know, I don't feel that way, but I get that. That's another aspect of it. Where you like, in other words, you're doing something. People say, let's say, smoking cigarettes. Not that I am encouraging smoking cigarettes, and I only started when I was 36 years old for specific reasons. But now I am smoking much less than I was, but still.
Awesome.
So when anybody says to me, look, you're slowly suffocating yourself. You're putting something that your lungs can't handle, and it's going to ultimately, even the quality of your life, if you're living, is compromised because of you can't catch your breath. That was more persuasive to me when I was like 40. You know, when I mentioned. Like 69. I'm going. Yeah, what am I going to do? I'm not going to make the Olympics this year.
Right.
You know, I can't sprint in 10 second 9.4 second 100-yard dash. No.
Just breathe twice as deep on every breath. You know, practice the pranayama. Breathe, Wim Hof breathing technique. Just oxygenate that shit.
Yeah, I mean, and that's even when you think about the whole virus issue that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were apparently, and I've never understood this, but you guys may know something about it. Like with COVID, and like if a person died, or is written down as having died as a result of the COVID, what was it? It was the bacteria virus. They got more money than if they were written down as having died at the institution, hospital. I mean, I know that's a fact, but I don't know how or why that was done. So people die. You know, I mean, you got a 96-year-old guy comes in, you're not feeling very well. This may be his time's up. But there was no more people writing down. Just died of old age. COVID was around, and obviously, you know, if a guy's that old and he's sitting in the hospital, so he's going to exhibit symptoms that could be considered like COVID, or he may even catch it real quick.
Yeah.
But what would be the reason for giving more money to an institution for treating a COVID? Maybe because they get federal money back or something.
And the supplies that they need to treat that. They get money for the supplies. Yeah. Whatever.
Some people got really rich on this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
It's strange, man. I mean, fuck.
Well, it's going to come down to
big egg to crack. At this point,
it's going to come down to some serious issues on America or American citizens' freedoms.
It's a template, and you can formulate many different dystopian futures based off of what's happened so far.
Yeah, but I mean,
I never would have guessed it would happen.
I wouldn't either. I just heard that it was one of the universities, like I think University of Maryland or some university, they had now taken the lead in terms of the institution saying you ain't coming back to school unless you're vaccinated and you have proof of it and stuff. And there was a challenge, understandably. Because you would have been, you should have certain freedoms and liberties.
Exactly.
And should the state? It's always a matter of balancing the state's interest in whatever they say they're interested in, health, welfare, versus the individual's interest in his own freedom. And so what he does. Mm-hmm. Do they have a right to tattoo on my head? I'm an idiot just because I'm an idiot. No, that's nasty stuff. If I want to tattoo myself, there are some terrible examples of this. It's like, it's like crazy. I can do that.
I think there should at least be limitations to like how the persuasions are to like.
Well, I'm not sure how I feel about the vaccine. I really don't. I'm not.
The magic.
Because if you don't get to, there are now apparently
nothing Trump. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, there's about half of the states. The more right they are, apparently, the greater percentage there are of people who will not get a vaccine. They're saying they're going to do it. If they have to fight to their grave, that kind of. No, because they don't trust it. Because who can you trust anymore?
No real reason to. Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
and then the other thing is, right? They also don't trust the they don't understand or not that they ever did the medicine. My attitude is, if they're your doctor, my doctor, if I go to him, that's the best advice I can. And I should leave it at whatever he says. Mm-hmm. I can't start claiming I can research better than he can. Yeah. Something he's been studying and practicing for 20, 30 years. And the overwhelming sentiment, as I understand it, of the medical community was that this is a very wise thing to do. Now they then impose it on people. But then again, if you don't reach a certain percentage, like you don't get that herd immunity. So you can really the people that aren't getting the vaccine could screw the whole thing up.
Well, I'm sure there's a whole lot, like a large percentage of our species that don't need it because their immune system as it stands is healthy enough to
But they're not giving it to little kids.
We've all at this point been exposed to it, so it's like we're both not keeled over. We've probably been coughed on someone who's had the cooties. So yeah, it's like for an older person on their sort of deathbed, very immunocompromised. I guess it would make sense, but it's not like you don't want to just be injecting some shit with a list of ingredients too long to read. That's just
my god!
It doesn't even stay in one place.
Right.
You don't. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, it just goes through your whole circulatory system, crosses the blood-brain barrier, because that's how it.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to stay in one spot. It's like your body. Recognizes whatever's been injected and creates the antibodies to fight it. But this vaccine, permeates the entire, goes throughout the entire body.
It's like cancer almost, but it's not cancer. I mean, but it is. If your body had cancer, those cancer cells, what make cancer is they just grow out of control, and your normal immunities don't stop it. Well, this thing is kind of doing maybe the opposite or whatever. Your body is supposed to learn how to fight it off by its presence.
That's how it can do that. It doesn't need.
It is kind of complex.
I'm not kidding.
But to restructure your RNA, the directives.
Yeah, inject yourself with an RNA replicase, which is like
it's just
adding a code to your genetics.
And that might be considered absolutely like normal medicine in 50, 100 years. And that may be if it works, it probably is a cure to cancer and all kinds of other things. They can just program your body. If they can program your body to beat this virus, they can probably program your body. And they've isolated what these cells are that are cancerous.
They could program fucking anything. I mean, they've written the Constitution in genetic code. You know what I mean? It's like you. It's at such a.
It's really, to my mind, just mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's.
They are they already farming parts, like human body parts? Oh, they could anyway.
Ghost organs. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could. I'm sure at some point in the future it'll be the norm to 3D print a template for any organ and then just inject the genetic material and boom, you have a new heart right there.
Right. Let alone even I understand that, for instance, way back when the Soviet Union used to take, particularly athletes that may have died in a car accident or something, you want to get them when they're still the heart's still breathing. You inject right out of their pituitary gland the human growth hormone. And if you take that stuff and pop it into an ill 65-year-old, you'd be surprised. They just take.
No, exactly.
They could become normal again.
It's like my
Alzheimer's. It would happen with cancer.
Yeah,
and it would happen with muscle.
One of my father's clients. I mean, when it gets to the stem cell level, like the basic building blocks
of
humanity. From what I understand, it's like these two girls, right? Lesbians. They're a couple. Just had a baby with the one partner's, genetics. They extracted stem cells from a femur or something and flushed it in baths, something to do with testosterone.
Right.
They treated it in this petri dish.
So it would be a boy, or it wouldn't be a boy.
They manufactured sperm cells out of her genetic material and inseminated
out of her.
Yeah. So it's like these two people had an actual child.
Wow, that is just like any other in terms of
no, it's crazy.
Male, female, normally.
I know a doctor. He was like,
that's outrageous. I never heard of that.
Yeah.
They made sperm, actual sperm.
Yeah.
Now there was. This is a good thing that this is like in New York City or something, because this is when people start coming in and throwing rocks. But I was just about to talk about the Immaculate Conception. Use that as I don't judge. The Immaculate Conception.
Yeah,
right? With Mary, who was 16 years old, the hottest chick in town.
There's illegal ramifications.
Yeah, but that was way ahead of its time. You got to give God credit for that.
He was doing it first.
He did it first, and now they're doing it now. You're saying that's an immaculate, or it could be.
Somebody needs to go back and explain to Joseph.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
What happened?
Yeah, the poor guy, man.
It's okay, bro.
Well, I think it's a little bit of deception there. Like how would you in real life? Now, of course, I realize it's immaculate, so really nothing's happening. But if something is happening, I mean, you are bearing the child of something.
Yeah.
Not voluntarily, I don't think. I mean, it wasn't like there was a discussion or she was, she was on the computer program or something. I don't know. She had her own website. I want to have immaculately conceived babies, and then beyond that, you had to get past. You had to have a Joseph there, right? Who's being told that he's supposed to stand there and be responsible for this baby, with everybody knowing that it's actually Jesus.
Right, he was the first baby daddy.
Yeah,
Joseph
yeah. And I don't think they were married yet, were they?
Cool step.
I'm not sure.
And I do understand. I heard a woman talk about this recently. Not a comedian or anything. She was just saying that they've taken like measurements and stuff that are used in the Bible for periods of time, and they've calculated how old Mary was at the time of the Immaculate Conception. This was young Pickens.
It's pretty creepy.
This was under 16 years of age.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, hey,
They didn't give a fuck. Man.
you created us. You want to take a pick, but apparently, they chose well.
Well, what's interesting is, so I took a number of Talmud classes.
Oh, good.
And one of the things that they covered in Talmud class, which is pretty much, if you've ever read through the Talmud, it's like a forum.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of rabbis debating when a girl is officially a woman. So it goes along these lines with Mary.
Because I get it.
So it's about 4 different rabbis arguing in text, and what they land on, what they all agree to say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, is 2 pubic hairs.
Oh wow!
Like that's not 1, 2, and somebody's got to do the checking.
Muzzle tough.
No, I'm sorry. 2 pubic hairs?
2.
Let's check
And that's the woman? Well, boys are men at 13.
And they want to know, like, okay, when can we kick in these dowries? When can we marry her off?
Right.
When is that okay and not okay?
Yeah.
But
when can
2, of course,
so
that's funny.
Can't just be 1. It's got to be 2.
2, I mean, by today's standards, because people are going up earlier. I mean, you have 12-year-olds.
Who knows?
Who knows,
Yeah.
right? I don't know anyone, but I know. I mean, they were talking about that. You can expect, if you have a female, that she's going to go through her mystical, magical bloodletting period.
Yeah, the moon time.
Yeah, sometime around age 12 now, or maybe before that.
Yeah, 11, 13.
But it was consistently, you'd see little girls walking around age 10 with a bra.
And that can go back to food.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
The girls probably, in general, having to be more self-reliant, more up against it, probably just more wiser and smarter and to be them with. And, you could, the average 13-year-old back then was probably
that's
ahead of their game than like a 20-year-old.
Though they married earlier back then.
Yeah.
Because they may not have a choice in that.
And they didn't live as long either.
No, they
That's
didn't.
probably why it's like they're probably getting
Right.
into,
Yeah,
by the time they get 20, if they don't find a wife or
I'm 69, I can get married again.
Yeah.
Right. Just go back to the thing.
Security,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a weird thing. If you so you think there should be a law? I'm just arguing it, but there should be a law against men like me, let's say, thinking of reproducing and have more kids at age 69. It's like irresponsible. That's like laying the responsibility at the foot of the government almost. How long am I going to be around? Till the child's 40. Let's say I'm around until the child's 40. I'd have to be 120 years old. That's like the oldest person that's ever lived.
Who was it? I'm not really sure of this. I heard it years ago, but apparently Andrew Jackson still has a living grandchild or something. They didn't have someone up in the 70s, and they didn't have someone up there.
Did you say Andrew or Michael?
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson?
Yeah,
the president?
$20 bill, yeah. Apparently he has a grand or great grandchild.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
That was like in high school.
Well, they're having some. I've seen, I mean, in the 40, I think up to age 40, they consider healthy for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 40, if she's going to bear a child, they consider her high risk just because of her age.
Mm.
Now, shouldn't that apply to men?
Nah, I mean, they kind of have the bum end of the stick on that deal.
Women,
they got to manufacture the actual person.
And now you don't need a man apparently if they can.
That's it.
No.
Yeah.
We're
phasing us out.
I hate to say it.
If
it's all a matter of need. I mean, it's not a matter of want to desire. All that stuff or romance. It's need. I mean, you get really down to it. And need being things like the genetic or genetic proclivity toward nesting or something when you become a certain age as a woman. And they are. You can see it. You can feel it. They're not kidding around anymore.
I mean, don't know. They got test tubes now. I mean, I think the fetus even is obsolete at this point. You know.
Jeez, but
they just got the code.
They can take your genetic code.
It can, and the genetic code can be taken by a matrix, such as the computer. It can exist.
Oh no, I know they have that.
I'm sure 3D.
You think people are? You think there's a prejudice? I do actually. That there's some sort of prejudice like that. That your as a matter of fact, your age does fall into a protected class, like race, religion. People are not supposed to be discriminated against in employment based on age.
Right.
Bullshit. You're gonna hire me.
Right.
I mean, depending on the situation.
Yeah, well, they call it ageism.
What is it?
They call it ageism.
Ageism.
When you discriminate against somebody based on their age.
Right.
Well, if you're looking for someone to shovel fucking
there you go.
or something,
yeah. But that's I think it's a legitimate. I think the question is if somehow you were qualified in every other way, other than your age, your color, whatever the thing is that they're really not hiring you for. It might just be answering the phone or something like that. But they know you're not going to be probably the longest term employee.
Right.
And they're like, if they're going to invest money,
they're looking for that. Yeah, they're like, is he fishing for retirement or what the fuck's going on?
But it only applies, I know, in the United States. According to the Americans with Disabilities Act, to age 40 and over. I don't know, so I don't know where that's coming from. 40.
Yeah.
It's not only old; it's considered discriminatory. If you can't come up with a good reason not to hire somebody as compared to the rest of the pool, and other than that they were over 40, they win. Just like I would.
Right.
So you're already done by the time you're 40 when you think about it in terms of being an old man.
According to them, yeah.
According to them, according to the law.
Right.
No, and when it comes to disability.
35.
That's considered a discipline. Well, you fall into the class of people protected against discrimination based on age. If you're 40, they have to pick some number.
Right.
40 seems pretty generous.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you hire a 42-year-old?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're good at what they do,
Yeah, you still got. If you look at it, you still got 20, 30 years to get at them.
Yeah, definitely. Before we started recording, we chatted a little bit about your time in law, which was a big hunk of your life.
Oh, yeah.
So how in terms of you and before that,
right?
What kind of things were you doing before you decided to go down that road, and what led you down that road?
Down the road in law or away from law?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Of your career in law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, back then, it was the most noble of hippie thinking to think, and I remember I thought that way, that you could change the world. I mean, literally, and the best way to do it for me seemed to be through the law.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
But not because I wanted to go out and play golf with people, or because I wanted to be highbrow with the Clintons or something like that.
Right.
Never even. This wasn't where I was coming from. But I was coming from things like being a vegetarian. I mean, anything that I believed in like that, or just civil rights. The things that mattered. What are you going to do about it if you're not you don't know law? Or you're not. So my thinking, which was not accurate, was that if this would empower me. Well, some of it's accurate. To at a minimum defend myself. In other words, it's like the old West. The guy who's the fastest gun is the guy you got to be afraid of, and you stay away from him. And I figured this is the way I can protect my family and myself against this rather. That's really what I was thinking. Against this world that doesn't seem so particularly friendly, and I stand by that.
No,
but to make major changes in the institution, I found out that that's a bigger.
It's an artificial world we live in, and that's like the framework of it.
And who knows what's really going on now? You listen to these conspiracies about, the what is it? What do they call them? The
legalese?
No. I mean, people who are in government but are controlling things without being seen. The
elite,
the
cabal of
the cabal. Oh, that's
calling the shots, listening to the.
Oh man, I've seen some videos about the Rothstein family.
Rothschild.
Rothschild.
That's one of them.
Rothschild. Man, it's just nasty. I mean, those.
There's several royal noble bloodlines that are, I'm sure, still have their hands on the pulse.
Well,
Maybe not for long. Who knows?
But the Rothschilds, I mean, they apparently. I mean, is there such a thing as a World Bank?
Too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the money when we talk about having, I don't know how much of a national debt. Theoretically, that's owed to the Rothschilds. I mean, that's a nasty. I don't think it's quite that simple.
Yeah, like their fucking 14th heart transplant or whatever. Yeah,
right.
They got a big bill, I bet.
Yeah,
but who knows?
But and even things like people. I did pursue like criminal defense work. It turned out, and mostly it was not mostly. Well, mostly it was things like drug offenses and which it's very interesting to work with. They became like a specialty, where the people I knew and liked, some of them were engaging in such rogue activities as smoking marijuana, which back then it was like I mean, literally you could they didn't hang you for it, but you may as well.
So about what year is this?
I graduated law school in '77.
Okay,
it's a long time ago.
Wow. Yeah.
So and in '77. Yeah, that same year is when I first started practicing law. So here's my perspective on the practice of law. Mm-hmm. First 5 years, no matter where you went to law school or who you are, how smart you are, or so dumb, unless you have a family that's all lawyers. Now because then you probably doesn't take 5 years. You've been bred, you've been thinking like a lawyer for a long time. First 5 years, you have no clue. I would never go to an attorney that's just fresh out of law school or something, because they're not they're teaching you quote unquote how to think like a lawyer, because you know everything about the cases and you know how to argue and stuff. You just know how to argue, but they just fill your head up. I got to the point in my third year of law school where you could give me any premise, abortion, good or bad. I could argue both of them right off the top of my head. The full argument in terms of freedom of choice, the constitutional based point, and then on the other hand, we're not killing babies, and anything. It would come down like, do I go to a movie tonight? Well, not a very straight up, not real good. Yeah, it got really bad. And then this friend of mine said, hey, you're doing it right. He says, you don't have to make the choice. You personally don't make the choice. Now, of course, in my own life, it was not a help to be able to, in your own head, go, okay, well, there's this. Well, there's this. Do I now press on the gas so I can move my car, or do I sit here because maybe something's going to happen? But that's not helpful. But in terms of making a living, this friend of mine said, what you do is you decide which side you can make no more money on.
There you go.
Yeah. And that's the one you argue if you have an opportunity. Yeah. And then the other thing was with criminal law. Let's suppose you hear about these people who have like a really good record, and there are attorneys out there who may have like 5 guilty verdicts and 95% not guilty. Wow, this guy must be good. Has a lot to do with the case you agree to take, And I at least was aware of that. Unless I believed the guy was innocent and didn't have a problem, he'd have to be either innocent or he might be factually guilty. But I think people shouldn't go into jail for that. Just that's where I was coming from. Then I would represent them. But that's why I wasn't losing cases, because I felt something about those issues. But it was everybody who has any business, let's say, just business in general. If you have a business, I don't know anybody who was a candle maker, or they're a TV repairman, or they're an entertainer, whatever it is, you're into it. Yeah. Yeah. You think about it, you sleep. You're going to marry somebody who's of similar interest. You can't sleep at night because how many candles are left? I was thinking candles because my old buddy was a candle maker. And he was just going on about his fears about candles. Now you take that and just that same mental state and transfer it over to a person who's dealing with the freedoms, particularly in criminal law, of in their life. Are they going to jail for 5 years or not? Worst case, are they going to get a death penalty or not? And I'm saying in some cases, yeah, they should be getting a death penalty, you know, but that's an extreme, difficult areas just to deal with people on, you know, like so you're sitting there waiting for the jury to render a verdict, and you say, you know, I agree, I'm not the one that's going to jail, but still you're sitting with these people, and if it didn't work out well, the family, it's just like, hey. Kids, you know, I mean, the law is heartless like that. You know, have you ever heard of somebody who is the father of 12, comes into court for sentencing with his wife, his mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, 12 children. He is the only, all females. Right. So he's the male leader of the household, and he's able to provide them with food, etc. So you stick him in jail now. They're gonna starve. You're gonna have 12 children. They're gonna be out.
Probably fucks everything up. Yeah.
Completely. You know, they're now gonna be they're gonna be feeding off the tit of the government, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not relevant. Not relevant. He committed the crime. He spends the time.
And
that's just heart wrenching.
So is that something that you've seen?
What's that?
You've seen that happen.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I've been sitting with people who, you know.
I can't imagine.
No, it's not even. What do? You know, yeah. I used to say, so it's tough to be a doctor, right? Because you're dealing with life and death situations sometimes.
Right.
But the person's not conscious. You know, I mean, as you're sitting there playing with your brain cancer, actual operation. I realize the stakes are high, but they're not looking at you. Oh my God!
Are you sure about that, buddy?
but you're sitting right next to this person who's literally got.
Right.
I mean, I used to use that analogy because cancer, if you got a certain kind of criminal enforcement activity aimed at you, you know, in other words, you're considered the bad guy for whatever reason, and it may be because you're the leader of some gang or something, or you know, involved with the mafia or whatever. If they've got you targeted, that includes the IRS, you know, any other. The DA, and they'll come in all together. You know, see all these different jackets around, FBI, CIA. You're in a really bad. It's like you have cancer, and the only way it's a minor miracle if you ever get yourself, you know, out of that. And unfortunately, toward the last probably 7 to 10 years of my practice, that's the stuff I was doing. I was going out of Florida, you know, for this case. I was like, you know, lecturing, and I just happened to have developed a reputation only because, you know, it was just circumstantial, and because I was taking only cases that I, you know, thought I could win. Right. That was nobody ever told me that, but it was just I wasn't going to stand up there, but I wanted to win.
Gotta make a living.
I wanted to win. I won. You know, and I'm saying it's weird to say. I used to tell my clients. I mean, this is just kind of good advice, I think, but I would say. Because like bands, for instance, same thing. Mm-hmm. If you're my client and we're in trial, you have to be looking at me. If I'm standing there vomiting, you have to look at me like I'm brilliant. Or else that jury, if you know, like let's say I'm saying something, and you look at me like this, like what the fuck is he talking about? The jury's going to adopt that attitude. Whereas if I'm no matter, I mean, so it may not be a brilliant delivery, and there may be areas where everybody has a lapse, but if you just continue to look at me like that makes sense. They may let it ride. You want to be found not guilty. You need to be fully supportive of me. And my whole secret, I thought, was I never until the very end when you address the jury, but during the whole piece, because it's very dramatic in a sense. But during the whole courtroom examination, I never looked at the jury. You know how these people. Kind of, they stand back and they want to. I did that. So I got them looking at the jury, but they're looking at me. But the jury gets the feeling they're looking at. That's good. Okay. And on occasion, you give a little look over. But you know, when you're on TV, you know, your place as an entertainer too. There's if you're in a band and you got a band member who's looking at you like you're some douchebag playing bass guitar, you're fucked up.
No,
you're done.
It's 100% just how you conduct yourself.
Really,
100%.
And how I mean, people don't get that. You know, I've seen it in successful enterprises numerous times where even the president of the United States and his wife, you've seen that, right?
Yeah, right.
You know, and he's making no sense at all.
Happy guy,
you know, like happened to, like for instance, Reagan. The entire time he's talking, I'm going. Where do you get the?
It seems that the sales pitch has diminished quite a bit in just quality and overall. Yeah. Authenticity.
No, but it makes a huge difference.
So what's the advantage of not looking at the jury?
Well, because by looking at the jury, you raise the prospect of, I think, this is my game as an attorney. In other words, look at me, how smart I am. Now, that's not. I can look at the jury if I'm addressing them, and I would on behalf of my client. So I would look at them and I'm addressing them. But what I wouldn't do, and what a lot of people do, is I'll ask a question that's going to twist up. It's a nasty question. It's a question that you can tell the cop's not going to answer. Then I would look over to the jury and go, how cute am I? That just blows the whole thing. You got because now I've broken character.
Yeah.
And you've seen that. I've seen that with comedians sometimes. They're very funny. Then all of a sudden they sort of break. They're like, before they tell the joke, they start laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so funny, Mr. So-and-so. Get off the scene. I don't like the guy anymore. So there is an element of representation. That's a very. Any interaction between people is significant, I suppose it could be, but to represent them in a situation where the stakes are high, even if it's not criminal law, let's say it's a divorce or custody, it's just unbelievable how much weight is on for those people.
Yeah,
and hence that translates through to you because I'm the one that's got to somehow tell the analogy I liked was the judge is like the judge, I suppose, would be the it depends. Could either be the cook or the chef. He's the ultimate judge. So I'm the attorney representing the person who's the waiter is representing the person who wants a rare steak. I want rare steak. You go tell her. So he goes into the kitchen. He goes, rare steak. He goes, fuck you. I'm never gonna make a rare steak because he's the judge. He'll do whatever he does. I've said what I made it very clear. I want a rare steak. I told my waitress that. The waitress goes back. She has no power over that judge. He'll cook it anyway he wants it, for whatever reason. He wants to screw her up, make it well done. I get all pissed. But the bottom line is, I will get a rare steak or not, hinging very much on how she presents or has been presented, what kind of relationship she has with the chef. Now that's real simplistic by comparison to what's happening with the judge, but it isn't not analogous. I mean, it is analogous,
right?
And that sucks. That part is politics.
When you were in the courtroom, was there also certain methods you'd have to interact with the other lawyers, like the prosecution?
Yeah. My attitude was, there was no. I tell you, there's two approaches to that question. Number one would be, let's say the person I'm cross-examining, let's say it's in a custody case, is the mother of the grandmother of the one litigant who I'm against, right? If I'm an idiot, right, and I've seen attorneys do this, and when they did this, I would just sit there and then I would literally look at the jury and go, they beat the shit out of this grandmother. She says, oh, Johnny, he knows how to take, I've seen him take such beautiful care. He's much better than her. The temptation is to jump all over this fucking old bitch. And if you do, the jury's going to hate you, and your client's not going to get custody. So I would just let the lady say her thing. I would never have any questions, because even by having a question, I'm not looking like the guy I should be looking like.
Okay.
Let her go. Now, if it was, but when it's opposing counsel, I would fist fight him.
Okay.
It was not uncommon. It happened to me 6 times that there were actually brawls, but I would just I'd be doing nasty stuff like you think about basketball. How these guys are playing basketball, but they're also going, your mother eats stickers. Or it's just be recorded. Sorry about that.
No,
I completely lost track. It's just being recorded. I just several times I've been thinking this is recorded.
It's fine. But there's no censorship on the show, so
that's
all good.
Well, but people know what I mean.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't mean that. But no, I would have, and it's the funniest thing is you read the court's transcripts of my fights, and it was all I would do is like if the guy was really tripping up, like he'd come back to his counsel table, and I go, "Hey, that was brilliant.
Right.
You really, what law school did you go to?" You know, sort of, just like that kind of stuff. To the point that they erupted. I mean, I never punched. They were just beat on me for 10 seconds. And it's case one. It really is. And there's no guarantees, but you start getting that kind of sympathy going for you. Whereas, particularly as a criminal matter, and now you got the prosecuting attorney is beating me up, or trying to.
Yeah.
He lost it completely because we have what appears to be a legitimate question. And it's so funny. They go, yes. The district attorney, attorney general goes, "Your Honor, Mr. Lynn continues to try to trip me up. You don't see that it's happening, but it's happening. You know, behind the scenes here. And I asked for a directive that he stop doing that. And that's when I go like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like this sort of thing. You know? But I'm in character, you know.
Right.
And they love it. The jury's just loving this. And so I'll start doing it out loud. Like I'll make, because I've been told I shouldn't do that behind the scenes, like you do in basketball. You ever see these guys there? You can tell they're or boxing. You know, Michael Tyson get in there. What about you? I'm biting off your ear. You know? I mean, just crazy stuff. I would do that all the time with counsel. If I'm walking, he's walking back to the chair, and he fucked up at all. I go, let's say the question was, how old are you to a woman who's middle age? You don't ask it. There's no reason to ask that question. But I would force them into getting like excited so that they would beat the shit out of the wrong people on cross-examination, like an old lady.
Right.
You should say you never do. And but when it came to the prosecuting officer, if there was some issue, I mean, if he's doing his job and he's testifying, but there are a lot of setups and stuff like that, and the only way to get your client off in that situation is to break the case. So I'd have to have somebody admit that they lied.
Right.
By having studied other cases that were related to this where his testimony was completely contradictory in terms of the date, let's say, for instance. And they wouldn't know I know that until the time came to do it. And then it was just literally a bloodbath, to win the case. But, and then they talk to the juries afterwards and they go, oh, they thought the attorney, that's me, was going to have a heart attack, at a certain page, at a certain stage. And it was not. It was all thought about in advance. It wasn't really a game or anything like that, but it's something that I became probably too good at to have continued to do it. Because I would consider myself quite a disturbed individual. I mean, I had cases that are going on. The one that broke me for many reasons was one that I went into partnership for that case with an attorney from New York. Went on for over a year, that trial, which is the Pizza Connection case. And so I wasn't the guy trying in New York, but I was representing the people as second counsel. I'd be down in New York. Actually, my job, as we discussed it, was to keep the clients in order.
Okay. Which
is not easy with these Italians, No.
Right.
But I mean, and some of these guys, I mean, it's just very entertaining. It's fun to think about, and you see it in very often, like the attorney who's, you're animal, that whole thing in that one movie. That seems over the top. It's not over the top. It's like pretty mild.
It must be brutal.
It is brutal.
I can't imagine such the vivid, dark snapshot you would get of just the human psyche as a whole. Of just being in the criminal offense field.
Right. Well, the main problem really is that you're being asked to produce a result that is not within your power to guarantee you can produce. Like if you want to have a quality podcast, you got a guy who probably is going to make sense to it. You got reasonable equipment. It may not be brilliant. No thanks. It may not be brilliant, but you got a decent day. Mine's black and white. Either win or lose. And that's every day for, I don't know, a good 7-10 years. And if I have cases like in Florida, or if I have a case in Oklahoma, or a case like in New York that's going for over a year. By the way, the attorney who was my partner in it had a heart attack. So during the thing. Wow. Two jurors, and I don't know how many other witnesses were killed. They just didn't show up the next day. And it was really nasty. And that's where you start wondering what the. I should have wondered what was going on.
And these people were like killed.
They actually killed them
that.
on. There were people getting killed standing on the courthouse steps during the break.
Oh fuck! Like on premises, just
yeah.
Like,
Now judges.
Shit was going down on premises.
Oh, and they would kill. Yeah. Things were getting nasty. They're really nasty. There, if you lose, now you the attorney.
You're the target,
First of all, if you win, which I did in that particular situation, you're completely screwed. I'm using. I mean, with the federal government, etc. They want you bad, and and this is my opinion. I can't prove this, but I know that like F.D. Bailey, if he's still alive, is sitting in prison. I mean, a lot of these guys, you wonder, hey, all these attorneys representing OJ and stuff, like those big teams, where are those guys? You know, believe me, they come at, you know, between your taxes and whatever else you might be doing, particularly if you're in a certain income bracket.
Right.
They want to take you out, and they're not kidding. And they do take people out. I know that. But, you know, I was sort of. Unfortunately, I got into that. That's what they start thinking. I had cases. There's some up on the wall there where, you know, I'm suing now on behalf of a person who was thought to be a drug defendant, who was in his house the evening that the police barge in. He's at the top of the stairs holding a teddy bear while he's like, they're not in the right house, it turns out. This man is at the top of the stairs holding a teddy bear that he's bringing into his son. The cop thinks it's a Uzi or something like that, and they blow the fuck away. And then this is before they know they got the wrong house and stuff like that. They're taking pictures, and I have the pictures. They're taking pictures of like holding the dead man, the guy they just killed, like as if he's like a trophy. Like each guy who was there, you know.
Fuckers, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they took an individual
pictures.
Wow.
And I had this stuff and everything. I never made it to that trial.
Not to say there's good cops, because I've
dealt
with some really good cops. Who
probably
saved my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
But
understand.
like that job description fits sociopaths to a fucking T. You know, and psychos and fucking. That's where a lot of them end up.
Well, I mean, you got to ask yourself. For me, honestly, if it's me and I'm in the field of some danger, I will shoot quick. And so I just don't blame the cops, you know. But other than the fact that they're at the wrong house, you know, and they should hold back a little bit. And the guy had there's no argument about it.
Right.
He was just blown away, and you know, he was perfectly innocent. Not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he probably's done something wrong in his life, but it had nothing to do with that investigation. And that happens a lot. And that's when things get really wacky. When the police are at the wrong house, so there's going to be some resistance.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, you can imagine.
Been a seasoned drug dealer.
Someone without a flashlight, someone's in your house, you know, you them and you blast it.
You got a dog that jumps them or something, they kill your dog within a second.
Don't read the warrant.
But I don't blame it. You know, I don't blame. I mean, as I was a seasoned cop, who, by the way, those guys have to be sick, you know. But
it's a different kind of person, and it usually fits like the rather altruistic,
right? Exactly.
No,
it used to be, you know, the guy who's on the beat was enforcing the peace and safety of the citizenry around him. You know, you look for a cop for protection.
Yeah.
Now you know it's become.
You can't find it because their cars are designed to be
It is really true. It is really true. And they're in cars. They won't walk the beat in.
Every other country, bright yellow or red or blue.
That's really true.
It's fucked up.
It is really, and then
revenue.
I mean, in the city, the average. I mean, let's see. This may be slightly stereotypical, but this business about having a state cop, sitting on the highway, just waiting until somebody goes flying by.
Oh yeah.
That's his job when there's people who.
I've had that before. Yeah.
Why not take that group of people and put them out looking for people who are going to rob the stores? There's a lot of shoplifting going on or something. And even the drug stuff, it never made sense to me. The amount of effort, just the amount of money that the government was spending so they could have a successful prosecution was ridiculous. It's just absurd. It would have been better just asking the average Joe, you ever smoke marijuana? And you go, yeah, I did. And then just throw him in jail for 5 months or something. Because that's what they're happy.
The cage with you, motherfucker.
They were so. It's been such a tremendous And that's one thing you get out of living, I guess, a lot of years or something. When I first started practicing, and then through the entire time I was practicing, if you possessed any marijuana, and it was marijuana, any marijuana, you were getting time. You got time, and in some cases, I know a guy who, without exaggerating, he had 2 marijuana cigarettes in his pocket. 5 years he gets sentenced to.
Oh my
same
God!
time. You know, and that was the maximum. You know, but still.
Yeah, yeah.
And he spent those 5 years. I mean, another guy personally.
5 fucking years.
5 years
For a little piece of
And
vegetarian.
you know, he has 2 kids. He has 2 kids, both boys.
Oh my gosh.
And just getting into junior high and like, you know, you may as well just rip a guy's heart out. You know.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
For
That's
what?
that's how you fuck up a family.
Yeah,
real quick.
how could this be so? I don't understand. He possessed some material. Let's suppose it was a dynamite or something.
Right.
You know, it's very dangerous.
Dynamite or meth,
I don't care
fucking-
what it is. It's substance. You know, how are you getting 5 years out of that? And nobody knows, except I know, but nobody knows who's involved in the field of law. Those judges that have never spent a night probably camping, let alone in the jail. They were sentencing people to 5 years.
It should be the
That should be one of, you know, give them a month, just a month.
man.
Through that routine, and then you watch those sentences. You know how less crowded the prisons get, because it's terribly screwed up. I mean it's punishment way over and above.
That
You
should be
have no
rights.
rights.
I think like any like judicial, I don't know, like a judge or someone or
Right.
anyone in law, at least 3 to 5 days in
Yeah.
like federal penitentiary.
Right,
just to,
without it being known that
understand
he's a
what the
judge.
fuck
You
they're
know,
up, you
he's
know,
just a normal guy who comes in.
what they're doing to people, you know.
Right, but they have. There will be tours on occasion where the judge is going to say, "Well, I have seen the," you know, but that's like the prisons go through his whole routine. You know,
That's
he
how
gets
right,
very-
make it-
to make it look great.
Yeah,
You're
you
good.
know, Carol. That's
And
what
it has
she-
interviews, staged interviews. You know, that aren't for real and stuff like that.
Carol,
But-
you know, she went with her husband and to fucking. You know,
For a tour?
paid vacations, yeah, like going down to Georgia and stuff, just to
Oh, really?
go to penitentiaries, visit, and like understand, and they get paid for it. You know, it's like a paid vacation.
Really?
You know, and she's in corrections. You know, she's a
Oh,
prison
wow.
guard. Yeah, you know, her and her man.
So is this meant to be something good for the inmates?
No, this is good for them. You know, it's
So
like
they're-
they go on a road trip. They hang out at a penitentiary for a day or something. Go do research. You know, it's like on the bill, whatever. They get paid for it, and it.
But were the penitentiaries claiming they were doing this as a way of at least getting some input from the prisoners as to what they were
Yeah, it was a good thing. Yeah, it's like they were paid for by I don't know if it was the prison or just the
state or something.
the law enforcement that she was working under. But yeah, it's like paid vacation. You go down to Georgia,
That'd be
hang out,
great.
do whatever. Go to this penitentiary today, see what the fuck's up, and yeah, that's what she told me anyway. That it's like you go there,
I mean,
and it's a paid vacation if you go hang out with the prisoners for a day.
and it's a funny thing. Like if you're, let's say, 18, or if you're, let's say, 70.
Yeah.
You put me in prison. What's the matter of fact?
Okay.
The food wasn't not that. I mean, the feds. Food was good. I go so far as to say, food's probably better than I'm eating now.
Yeah.
That's just myself.
It's like a guy I work with is like, what, paid free vacation? Fuck it, sure do it.
Oh yeah.
Go for it.
No, in the feds, what they're doing is they get food very often from where big tractor trailers have accidents. You know, so they have to be carrying okra at the time or blueberries. And for the next 4 days, I swear to God, you're getting the entire system is getting, because we're talking about these big intersections, you're getting blueberry pancakes. That's what as soon as you get like it's just complete. No, it's like no pancake. It's just blueberries with a little bit of like pancake thing. You go, this is fat. This is fantastic. For lunch, you got blueberry soup. I swear to God. And then for dinner, they make like a beef thing that's like half blueberries. And that's cool until you're in the third day, and that's what they do. They give you plenty of food for everybody to eat. And then there was like a salad bar, you know, where if you didn't like what they were going to eat, you had peanut butter jelly, et cetera, et cetera. But the blueberries thing was the most extreme. And at the end, they did blueberry soup, blueberry pancakes, and then, of course, blueberry drinks. The blueberry soup, I thought was a good one. They heated it up.
Well, at least you're eating well in lieu of the
extracurricular
activities that go on.
Yeah. I don't know. You live a much better life. I mean, there were some guys that have been there for like 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
They look, if you exercise, you know, anytime, really, not anytime, but they certainly provide a time for you to exercise.
Mm.
And some of these, they call them campuses. I mean, they're not. It's not just a building.
Yeah.
Like in a state.
One dude I worked
city.
with, he just read books all fucking day.
Yeah.
And just worked out.
Right.
You know.
That's the only thing
Can't
you
trust.
can do.
Yeah, I mean.
As long as you're not in solitary.
Depending on how you carry yourself, from what I hear anyway. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It can work out for some people, depending on the severity of the charge. You know.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
Well, but the facts are that the people that are working there, the prison guards and it typically have, if they're experienced, they've already been also prison guards where they're on death row, and you're dealing with a whole different kind of individual.
Right. And
in many cases, they have this rotating shift thing. So, let's say it's Allenwood or Lewisburg, those local federal penitentiaries. Your guy has 2 weeks in with the camp, which are people that are just living out bars. They have freedoms, like for minor offenses, federal offenses, all the way up to level 5 offenses, like rape, murder. And so if it was 1 week, with each group of people, you come back as a normal human being from a week with Charles Manson, and then go back into the kindergarten group. You're gonna beat the shit out of them, because you're taking a lot of shit. I mean, it's a tension level you got to release, and unfortunately, a lot of these guys become like serious animals. The guards, I mean, they're sentenced. You don't want to be that. Personally, you don't want to be there.
I don't know who in their right mind.
It's a very nasty. It's a very when it comes to yin and yang. I mean, it's yang. It's like serious.
It's a very charged environment.
Oh yeah, and the inmates have the same right to exercise, etc. as the guards have the same right as the inmates. So you'll find these guards walking around because they're there forever. Who's taking steroids? They're all like, just burn. Yeah, and God forbid you happen to be a guy that's like this. You may not last very long.
Oh really?
But, oh yeah. They're nasty.
They target,
I mean, and they beat you up. If they were going to beat you up, they'd come with a blanket. I saw it happen. I don't know how many times. Like, they don't like you for whatever reason. I mean, in some cases, people are very obnoxious. The guards don't like the inmate. Right. And he may be a guy who's really acting out. Tell him to go fuck them. He's like, I'm going to take your fucking food. And that kind of stuff. Yeah. Call them assholes. He's at nighttime, everybody's trying to sleep. He's like, you guys are all fucking assholes. Well, next thing you know, they come out with a blanket and 6 of them. Wow. And they just throw the blanket over the guy. They carry him out like a sack, in a sack. And then I had 2 experiences where I knew the guys. One came back after a couple of weeks in solitary, after me beating the shit out of it, with a permanent palsy, the guy had been, he was just like,
he was done. Yeah.
He had all sorts of medication. He was completely done. The other guy I never saw again. The black guy, never saw him again.
Off to the loony bin.
I mean, well, or they may have just killed him.
It's that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the deaths. They don't tally them. Like, they just say somebody died, while in prison. They didn't die, from some virus. There they were.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I imagine how much of that went on, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
No, it's COVID. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, because I tell you, that's one aspect that I hated.
But one thing, so you mentioned that you were doing cases in Florida and in New York. Would they seek you out for these things?
Yeah.
Wow.
You were invited for title of judge a couple of times, right?
I'm sorry?
One time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I mean, that's up there, right?
That was, in the one sense, it was like, as I said, I was a big fish in a small pond, because I was living in Bloomsburg, and I originally got a job as a college professor there. And then after 5 years of teaching, I decided, I'd really like to just practice law, maybe do this. But I quit the teaching job I quit the teaching job because I was thinking, I'm such a phony. I've never even practiced law, and I'm here lecturing. It didn't feel right. Even though that was such a great job, standing up in front of.
Can imagine, yeah.
4 times a week or something, for $30,000-$40,000. But so yeah. I developed a degree of credibility, as I see it, from being a college professor who then was a town attorney.
Right.
But when I left the college, I was interviewed by the college newspaper guy. They had the picture made. He's leaving. He's going to be in his own practice here in Bloomsbury. And they said, the guy asked me, and I said, what I saw in terms of my practice. I told him I was going to be pretty exclusively doing real estate and estate law, because I was teaching business law. So that's where I thought I was going with litigating. It was no idea I'd ever be doing criminal cases, but and that just was coincidental. It just happened that I was doing yet another. I was doing civil cases; they were coming my way, but not nitty gritty, dirty, And as an attorney, just and that I mean, it's not because of your study, but I'm just saying because you've devoted so much time to it. You're in with the bad, it would be like a blues player playing down in New Orleans in some gritty bar. He's going, holy fuck, I'm here with the real guys.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me to be with the real criminals.
Okay.
Who were organized, and the mafia people. And I only met them because a friend of mine was teaching Italians and Spanish inmates how to speak English. They did something. They had a program. And after one class, one of the guys came up and asked if they knew of a local attorney who was competent. And he said I was. Who could just handle their daily affair stuff while they're in prison. So I go up once a week for, it was $100 each guy. So I got $500. I mean, this is a long time ago. $500. I just drive half hour to the prison. They'd have these guys lined up for me one by one. Each talked to me for 10, 15 minutes. I make a note. They didn't like the breakfast this morning or whatever. Because these guys, they're even in prison. These guys who I first met were like movie stars. They were actually being treated even by the whole prison. It was very much different than the limited experience I had with visiting a client in the county jail or something.
So were these mob guys?
These were mob guys. Okay. Specifically, better than that. But mob guys of a known group whose upper echelon were in prison. I mean, the main man and the second main man, and I got to see them sort of so they were testing me out, so to speak, with the lower guy on the rung. It was cool, and then this whole bus came down, where nationwide this pizza, they call it Pizza Connection, it was supposedly to launder money through all the pizza places, which involved the entire United States. And they had, 250 defendants. They were riling. If you're Italian, you get rounded up.
Right.
It was if you had a pizza shop, and we did in Bloomsbury, that's basically, that was the other aspect. They already knew me as the college professor guy. So,
right.
So but along the way, I was doing, stuff for them and socializing with them in New York City and stuff. Just unbelievable. In Atlantic City, I mean,
what was that like?
It was just beyond normal. It was feeding my ego, to be honest. I realized that. So the ultimate end of it is I could not have forecast. I would have been either completely blissfully unconscious or something, or dead. I imagine much more before I am going to be.
One of the two, right?
Yeah, right. Whichever one it is. Had I continued my lifestyle at that point, because at that point, for instance, they bought me a car. They didn't. They just didn't like me driving around in a regular car. So I had a Mercedes limo style car. Where I could be sitting in the back with this crane neck thing. Anybody would be driving it. It was my car. Right. And so I had a secretary, or then I hired a guy. And I'd be in the back, hop in the car, let's drive to, wherever they're in trouble. And it could be a 5-hour ride. And it's all good time to me. I'm on the phone. And it felt, you have this whole, I'm smoking joints, whatever I want to do. And a beautiful car. And they just gave it to me. So now I'm that's very much tight, socially as well. They'd come up with, I mean, in a way, I think it was clearly probably responsible for the demise of my marriage, because, I was already a father. I was married, and I was already beginning to father of 1 or 2 kids, and it was and growing, and they had no regard for that. if I were to say to them, my wife thinks I should stay home this weekend, they would literally like pee on me or something. What the fuck? It'd be like with a bunch of male dogs, they just rip my guts out. Because it just never even occurred to them or me. But when I think about it, you know, so she's left. She's at home all week. Now it's the weekend. They come. Their guys drive into my farmhouse. You know, go inside, say you're with us. You know, come on. And I go wherever they want to take me because it was going to be a good time. So it would be like a weekend away, and we'd be seeing. You know, they owned all. The Atlantic City was like I don't know if they still do, but they owned everything. It seemed. So, and the deal was after they got to know you, you would go to a casino. And I don't gamble, so which made it much more fun for me. But you'd be in a room where you can get it was all comped out. You know, there's whatever you want to eat, to drink, and then, unfortunately, more so. They made available. I mean, whatever it was that they made available, it was always in excess. You know, it was like if you said you drank, what's the German drink that we've been Jägermeister, right? A bottle of Jägermeister. You know, even if they caught wind of the fact you like, so they never what you drinks is a bottle. You know, and it's very tough to keep up with in a way. But I remember one or two times. You know, unfortunately, there was one time where. I was so intoxicated or whatever that I did a behavior that I would not do with my normal constraints. But I was feeling so comfortable with these guys that I thought it was all right. And we were at an all Italian speaking restaurant. This was in New York City. So they picked me up, and Ed, the guy who talked in Spanish, they liked him really a lot. They picked the two of us up, took us to this Gardenia restaurant or whatever. And there was like this big, opulent, you know, like big table, just full of fish food. I don't know why. Fish. Wow. You know, they got into the fish thing.
Gourmet seafood.
All these, smoked this. Nice. And then here's my with my bottle of, I think at the time it was some sort of scotch. And Ed's was his. And I'm looking around the table, there's like 60 people there or something. And at the very head of the table was the Don. Right, who I never met before. I mean, the older guy, the first one, you know, and he must have been 90 years old, in my recollection. And sitting on his lap was like a woman younger than me. I'm 20-something. At that point in my life, I may have been 30-something years old. She was like a hot 22 years. I mean, hot. Damn. I remember consciously thinking to myself, do not look there again. I consciously thought there was do not look in that direction again. But I'm getting bombed, right? I mean, next thing I know, she's sitting on my lap. This is sick. That's his. You know, you might think, who knows? I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't. I thought it was like a grandfather, and she was sitting on his lap too. But I mean, there was no hot heat. You could feel it. So somehow, and it was like you jumped. You jumped to the next circle. I don't know how I got there. I don't have any idea she got on my lap. But we were making out and shit. You know, it was just like. You know, everything was provided. And I went to the bathroom to take a break, and one of their guys, I was taking a piss, right? All of a sudden I get this gun at my head. I mean, not just a gun in your head, but like where you know, it's pushing your neck down. Yeah. And one of the guys, I had met before, one of the guys says, you've insulted us. I go, what are you... And what are you talking about? And what, you know, I'm not a brave guy. It wasn't like I was going... Yeah, you use that thing because I could tell he was he's got me by the arm and the things in my head. And he says, and apparently he was impressed by the fact, or spared me because I really didn't.
Just the way you carried yourself.
I just had no clue. I had no clue.
You had to flow through the situation.
I don't even remember what I was doing, you know, like that much earlier. Yeah. And other than I do remember the thing kind of developing where I did look at her, and then all of a sudden she was like, this much,
you know, obviously.
Next thing, I mean, we were moving fast, and it was with his woman, with the Don's woman. So that time, they didn't kill me, but Ed and I were set up to go. They asked us to leave. You know, now this was all resolved later because the old guy, he probably wouldn't remember it anyway, and I never saw the chick again. But they just dumped us, and this is how they are. You know, like your limo would ride down, but now you're on your own. We got back in the limo and we were 3 blocks. They go, get out. Like, come on, guys. You know, we're in Brooklyn or something like that, or wherever it is. I think it's Brooklyn. It's a gardenia restaurant. Other than that, I don't know. I don't even have enough money on me to take a bus back.
Right.
I wasn't even thinking that this kind of thing could happen. So Ed and I, you know, like now things are like, you know how your mood's going like. Well, sometimes you have enough going on that you're just now ramping down. Your mood's going like faster than gravity.
Just accelerating into pure
it was terrible.
internal panic. Yeah.
I went, whoa, because I was so cocky that this was just part of the whole thing, that this woman was the most beautiful woman in the world.
Yeah.
I'd won her over and stuff. And then it was like, almost, I'm gonna die. They're gonna kill me. And then I gotta somehow get off. And we hiked. It took us 3 days, I think. And meanwhile, there was no cell phones. That didn't exist.
Oh my God, no, dude.
You can't knock on doors. It was just the weirdest. Like,
the average,
it was like
the average Smo would not be able to comprehend that way of life. Dude, like that.
That was
People,
unbelievable.
you know, it's
Well,
so crazy. Just being thrown into that whole world.
It was very nice. I mean, in a sense, but unfortunately,
it's some heavy shit.
There's a it's like it's a balancing. That was the one time, but it happened another time where they're just. This is my impression. They're very much who's into functionality in business. You know, in other words, what matters most is we accomplish what we need to accomplish, and if you can be of help. You know, and you're the guy we need, so to speak.
Yeah.
They treat you with tremendous respect and opulence.
Yeah, mutual understanding.
Once you're not, you know, they don't have any residual sentiments.
Yeah.
And
that profession just exposes you to a whole other branch of like our species.
Oh,
you know, like
well, that's the thing.
kind of
So now I'm being investigated
amazing.
as a mafia guy. That's what things started to unravel.
That's what ended up happening.
You know, maybe and I wasn't in the mafia.
Yeah.
I did socialize people. Maybe they were in the mafia, maybe they weren't. You know, I mean, it's very true. Of all the people I met, some I'm sure were not part of the business. It wasn't that structured. But I got to be known as, or thought of, by government, by the guys who are dedicatedly working on popping these guys or keeping them in jail. You know, I don't know how many there are, but there's a whole league of them. Like this, the such and such unit. You know, that's what they do. They try to ramp down. I think they're done, right? Aren't the mafia kind of done?
For the most part,
yeah.
I would say.
It's not like it was.
It's a whole different
No,
kind
it's
of
definitely
world
not
now.
like it was. So how long after the incident at the dinner did you continue to work with them?
Oh, for I would say like 2 years. Okay. And things were just great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. The money was ridiculous, you know, what they would pay, and then even over and above that, you know, there's always. So they took me, or I had another child, you know. It's just, you know, I don't know, a horse comes in, and it all seemed kind of humble and very sweet. This I was thinking, but I know my ego is being stroked, and it wasn't so much my ego as a man, but it was my ego as a lawyer, you know. Like it was very important to me. You know, that's all psychological background, but it was very important to me to be good at that. You know,
dealing with that type, man, you got to just be the best at what you're doing. Otherwise, you know.
I mean, even with my parents and stuff. I mean, I remember my dad saying, this is well before he got, you know, where he had Alzheimer's and didn't remember much, but he said he doesn't remember anything about grades I got in college so I could get into law school, let alone how I did in law school. He had no recollection, which makes sense. I mean,
just the title.
Because anything that, if you did, there wasn't that one thing, really didn't matter. You know, I knew that at the time. So I was running track. I got, you know, I was fifth in the state, and this one, in the 440 at one point, I won the districts and stuff. It was a big thing. He wouldn't even, I would say that. I said, Dad, I won this race today. Here, get this. And he wouldn't even look at it. He was just, you know, and he's right, too. I think, as I look at it now, at the time as a little kid, I thought, But psychologically, as a little kid, not little kid, but high school kid, I just spun into, okay, how can I win the guys?
Right.
Yeah.
And going to law school was big because nobody else had done that. We're in Erie. I'm a first generation American. Yeah, my parents were immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
So, and usually, first generation, your parents probably speak some English, and you're learning it. So, and I'm there, going to law school, and it was crash, bang, boom. I get the job teaching as a professor, and it just it escalated into like a sense of credibility, and yet I was a party guy.
Yeah.
Wild thing.
So they couldn't push it, and they pushed it. They pushed it. Some of it I'm sort of embarrassed about, but I mean, there was no. They were involved in every business you can imagine. So they were very, so hotel rooms were like really opulent and all that sort of stuff. And I took it as part of, and I worked hard, for the other cases and stuff. And then ultimately, the bottom line is, there was a huge operation. I mean, helicopters, DEA jackets, people running in with guns, that kind of thing, where they pop, so to speak, my office in Bloomsburg, and the office we had in New York City, which my partner Bob, and then we had one in Philadelphia at the exact same time. I'm telling you, these offices were, a normal business day. We're not doing anything. But as related, they're also picking these guys up, by the hundreds, and all their attorneys, not all their attorneys, but a lot of attorneys, good, the bigger attorneys.
Right.
They're raiding their office. Now they're not arresting you. They're raiding your office. But already now, when your office is raided, the mafia gets wind of that, and they're going, "What? They got our fucking paper? What?"
No, it definitely.
I don't blame them. I should have. I never even thought of that. I never thought of it. Let alone, they're now the police are muscling me. The government is muscling me, basically saying, "You either tell us everything you know, or we're going to charge you as being complicit." I mean, everybody knows that's a technique.
Wow.
They either cooperate, or I'm considered to be complicit. And I said, it didn't take me long, but both ethically, because I was that kind of, I was serious about being an attorney, and just the practical element about the stories you hear about people who narc on a mafia guy.
Yeah.
So I refused, and I got in front of a judge who, like that same day that they were raiding my office, my secretaries are screaming and shit. And I'm talking about it was despicable. It was literally like you see these pictures like of Vietnam being bombed,
Yeah.
It was like
it was a fucking raid. You just got fucking.
There were more people raiding that office. Wow. We had 5 people there or something.
Wow.
Then there was 20 times. They had it in and out of there within 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden, I'm picked up, and I'm brought before a judge, and because they want the papers explaining this stuff. Within 12 hours, I'm picked up. At one point, thrown in the trunk of a car. That's a whole other story. That's where things get more intense. But I said to this judge right off, I said, attorney-client privilege. I don't care. You have no right to ask me those questions. If you want to know things about them, they were not part of a legal conversation having to do with attorney-client privilege. I'll answer them. What color pants does so-and-so wear? What color is eyes? I don't think you're fine. But anything having to do with any case, you can't do that. That goes to the entire case, really the whole reason for the Constitution. If you can have defense attorneys who are forced into disclosing everything, they don't even have to bring it to trial anymore because the case is over. And the government, they're looking at you as an attorney who represents these guys as them. And you are in a sense, because they are my friends and it was not unrealistic, though I denied it, to think that maybe they were poking your brain a little bit, not just in terms of a situation involving like a traffic citation, but like what do we do with this? What would be the best way to make this money distribute?
Overstep the balance a little bit.
So you set up a real estate closing and stuff, And the unfortunate thing is that the real estate closing part that I was snagged in, and that there's no attorney-client privilege because it was criminal. But check it out. They told me it was $50,000. It was not much money. So it's $50,000 real estate closing that took place just to get rid of money. There was no real estate. And I drew up the deed. So there they kind of, so to speak, had me. But not unbeknownst to me, the people who I was working for changed the 50 to something like 5 million. Yeah, after I'd done the deed.
A couple more.
So, and which means what you're in deep here is big time shit, in my case.
Mm-hmm.
So things are getting more intense. Now they're looking at like charging me with being complicit in money laundering of not 50,000, but
you're
10 times that.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at 20 years minimum and stuff like that. And I'm completely out of touch. I should mention, now the judge has said, they bring me every day. They bring me there for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I refused to answer on the grounds of attorney-client privilege. And the ACLU is getting involved, and other attorney friends of mine are slowly gearing up. But this judge he says, I'll see you in 5 months. That was it. It's the way I am in some federal institution.
Wow.
no follow-up with anybody. I mean, my wife knew, but I was just yanked out.
Everything revoked, at once.
No, and I mean, I was just yanked out. I had a business, with people trying to. You allowed certain people you could call. But anyway, the thing I didn't, and that was very difficult. First of all, just to change the circumstances, because I'm the guy, that's hanging out, making out with the good guy. Now I'm in fucking prison. I mean, how did this happen? Like, how did I go from here to wait? I mean, this is unbelievable. And it was bad. I mean, my kids, it's been written up in the local newspapers like I'm, I don't know.
Slander up the ass.
No, a mafia attorney fooled everyone,
Fucking slander.
So it was bad. And unfortunately, at the end of the 5 months, they brought me back before the judge, and he had been persuaded to just not force the question anymore. Other things had happened, but I did have cases came down on appeal and stuff that said you can't make the man tell you that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the mafia people, the people that had hired me, were not reading to find out the latest court case decision. That's the only way they would have known that I'm now out and why I'm out. So they find out very quickly within the day. They call me and they go, "Why didn't you call us to tell us you're out?" And I said, "I'm just getting used to being out." My wife, this is. They go, "Well, we got something. This is so pathetic. This is the whole story." So they go, "We got an important case for you tomorrow, up in Wilkes-Barre." And I said, "I'm in. Why?" It's been 5 months since I was all excited about it. So, and then when I got up to Wilkes-Barre, I met the client outside. We were walking across the street. Here's the courthouse right here. And we walk across the street, and I just hear this, like a car it's coming much faster than it should be, coming out of an alley. Just, absolutely floored. You can hear the thing's floored. And I start to look to my left, and then boom, it hit me. The thing ran me over. Then I'm in a coma. My legs are broken. My shoulders broken. I lashed into my head. I was unconscious for weeks.
If you don't mind me, if you don't mind me asking, it was like long gap.
Yeah. That's
always wild to me. It's just like shifts in perception. Just
my God.
Like you picked up right.
That was so that was all about. I believe. And I have enough confirmation to know that was at least somebody who sympathized with the perspective that I had been. It may not have been my own clients. It may have been anybody who thought that an attorney who narcs on his clients deserves not to be around. Or dead men can't speak, which is pretty well the way that business is run. Particularly if there's now questions. Nobody asked me that question. Mm-hmm. Nobody. How come we haven't heard from you? It never occurred to me. I was looking forward to talking when the guy called. I said, "Hey, great," but it wasn't like what apparently somebody thought I'd done. That's how you had to figure it out on your own. I first thought it was the government. They wanted me out. So that was a very, very, very weird time because now I'm out of prison for like a day or two, and now I'm in a different kind of now it's like absolute torturous pain, and I don't remember how to walk. So after 13 years, it was a huge fucking thing. And it was terrible. But, you know, if I hadn't pushed it as hard, and I don't regret it, but if I hadn't gone for a successful practice, if I hadn't gone that far this way, I probably wouldn't have gone that far down or something, if that was what they were thinking about. But that was a lot of yang, if you know what I mean. It was like one at the physical getting hit. And I remember, like, just this guy who was on my right, it was only me that was run over, so I'm thinking, but that looks a little suspicious. What happened to my client? What happened to the case? And it was so fucking heartbreaking. I mean, I was hit. Fortunately, I just lay there unconscious in the road. My legs were broken off, you know, like
two compound fractures, multiple compound.
But I mean, they were, yeah, you could see it. You saw a guy's leg, then you saw the knee, and then, you know, midway down there's a picture of me I'm laying in the street, and then there's another one where the judge, who was hearing the case that day, and then I thought the case, because there was a case that this guy was involved in, but the case, I don't know, at any rate, this was a lot of pandemonium. Apparently, they had to life flight me to a life save center or whatever it was called up in Scranton. And but before that, it was good that no car ran me over because this was a pretty busy road.
Yeah.
And but there's a picture of the judge, who was a wonderful guy, he may still be alive, who was holding my head like this, like a baby, and the whole thing's worn off, and he's got his black robe on, you know.
Like after it happened.
Yeah, he's holding my head. I think it was I'm not sure it was in the New York Times or what. Seriously, I had the picture, but I can't look at any of that.
That's complex, yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous. You know, I snapped out of the thing while they had me on a table, like where they're spinning around. You're spinning around, they're trying to get more oxygen into you so you can come out. Because it wasn't like a coma where this is a good thing. You know, like it was just a trauma. And I jerked, you know, awake, so to speak. And I just started crying. You know, I just didn't know what, but you know, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
And they were like more. Like, I can't even tell you. It was like it looked anyway like just a sea of medicine around. You know, it was because you're dizzy anyway. And they were just doctors. I knew I was fucked. You know, I knew I was just laying there.
Something fucking crazy shit went down. You know.
But they came. I was already mentally. I would call myself mentally disturbed. More so probably than before I went in for prison. For that 5 month thing. That 5 month thing really shook me up.
Dude, no, that's more PC. I mean, I don't know how you could even gauge it, but
I've done through. Yeah,
like combat veteran or something. That's about this. I'd say that you're in the same realm as like someone who's. That's just when everything just resets, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and you have no control over it. It's just and now it's.
It was
it
was a real.
You're just thrust into a whole new like existence.
Oh, it was, and it was, but it was the thing is, it was all reactionary to my prior existence. And it was all going for the same thing. Like the thing that I was feeling good about myself was now I feel bad, bad. And my father, became a much gentler man over this period, and he would come to visit me all the time, and I treasured he wrote me every day, sort of thing. Awesome. As these days are going by, so and he never looked at me like with disrespect or anything like that. Thankfully, my mother did her very best, but I remember at one point I thought while in prison I wanted to talk to a mental health expert because I was like not feeling well.
I mean, few people could go through that shit, man, and be like talking.
I don't know. So I like to think that the business about being in prison was not as bad as the physical injury, really.
Yeah.
The physical injury was like fucked up, and just being now you don't know what I don't know what happened, I don't know who did it, and I don't know what's going to happen with me because they're not giving me any. We may be able to get you walking again or something. Okay, so I'm in a fucking hospital bed. This is the beauty. I'm in this hospital bed in my house for months. And my ex-wife, she's my second wife, who I married and broke the heart of my first wife. So my second wife, even during the 5 months or so I was gone, so to speak, gone. I've been my unfortunate, I like to call it, to my place of unfortunate incarceration. It must have been hard for her to just hang in there, But because she's working, she had to get a job. I had no income coming in anymore.
No doubt, yeah.
But we had money and still saved and stuff. It was she incidentally ran through. Once I guess her heart hardened. It didn't take that long. Sometime I think before I got out of prison, Jesus, I could feel the difference. But she met I knew the guy. She met a guy from the college because I used to teach him, like I said. And he was the head of food services. And he was like a snaky guy. He's divorced, and I knew him what snaky was. She was going to work for him, and then she wasn't coming home. I knew that much. I'm laying in bed. I still have the pot beans type of thing. She has her mother there taking care of me, and I can see days come and go, daytime, and she hasn't come home. It's like 10 o'clock at night. Normally, that would be something I would confront somebody about if I had the strength. But I'm just observing at that point, because I'm fucked. And so then came the time. That's the end of that's the end of my interesting story. But then came the time where I confronted her with my concerns or my fears or whatever it is, and she confirmed that I was right. And I remember looking at her. It's like a 3-part movie or something, or play. It was the first, second. First is prison, etc. Second is mental or physical damages. Then the last was looking at my ex-wife as she's forming the words, admitting that she's saying it to me, and I can't understand. It's not registering. I'm not really not believing what I'm hearing. She goes, yeah. I went totally ballistic. I'm scared of leaving my own kids away. But and they already had a place they were living together. Being interrupted a lot, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no problem getting me to, because I'm already jumping in,
Right.
It's more of a problem there. But there are people I know who, you gotta go.
Yeah.
That must be, how much dead air, we're gonna have here. That used to drive me as a person. I mean, as a young person. If there was a teacher that would, what? I thought, by then I'm going, I can't take this guy. I just can't take that. It's slow plodding. But there are people who I've met who say they can't understand anything I'm saying. Like if I'm, really. And I have one daughter who has the problem. It's almost, she had developed like a semi-stutter because she was talking so fast. Here's why I waste any time. The clip of my time a little fast.
It's like one word is constantly being replaced by the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you cut each other off. So I remember this one buddy, you're feeling me. He goes, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Okay, that's good, because I couldn't stand listening to him talking.
Right.
I was like, okay, I get it.
It's a hard feeling. Yeah.
So I had a sandwich in my hand, and that was great.
Now, I have like 2 gears of speech because my mother talked fast.
Right.
She was at New York, Queens.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. So I could keep up, I would be able to keep up with her.
Right.
And yet, a lot of times people will accuse me of big gaps, speaking too slowly, because I could either talk to you really quick and just move right from one thing to the other.
Then it's too much for the brain to take on in a way, right?
And right, and if I was slowing myself down, then it leaves room for those pauses.
Right, and so that what you're saying can be more easily understood.
Yeah.
And you can actually say things more meaningfully because you're thinking about what you're talking
about.
Exactly. My head is definitely going faster than my mouth.
Yeah.
So I'm so ahead of it.
I relate to you with that. Yeah.
And just like typing, let's say. I'm a pretty good typist. Still, I mean, I wish there was a quicker way of getting the damn things thought out, And if a handwriting, I heard they get rid of handwriting.
Mix your own language up, kind of.
Yeah, we just have shorthand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we get a video or something.
Yeah.
You could just play a person back at whatever speed you need. So they're understandable.
But yeah, in closing, Mike, and we started this conversation about your 69 years of life, and it's been quite a life, as you illuminated in the show. And I appreciate you coming on and telling the story and coming on again for another show.
Oh, it's great for me. I mean, just to be even the subject of some interest and it helps, and to reflect on those things in a positive sort of like a more objective way than I might otherwise. Things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
It has to do with me personally, but happy to be interviewed by. And I guess your show has been around for how long now? Years?
It's about a year and a half.
So it's going to stick around and stay.
Yeah, we're closing on episode 70.
Wow.
So and
wow.
It's cool. It's cool to have you back on. You were episode 7.
I know. I was just
first one.
I was just gonna say. I thought it was.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of episodes. I was actually thinking. I don't know if I have that much to say anymore, but apparently I did.
This is an amazing episode.
Yeah, we both appreciate you giving your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Planet Shivers podcast. And thank Mike Lynn and Isaac Wilson for jumping on with me. You could find this episode and more on all podcast platforms and YouTube. There's a lot of great episodes coming, some experimental episodes coming up in the next couple of weeks. So, with all that said, keep on following, keep subscribe, do all the things. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else.